All right, welcome everybody. This is the Strength of Women in Business panel. I'm the moderator, Jill Brito, and we're excited to have you all here with us today. We've got some amazing entrepreneurs with us, and I'll just start out with having everybody introduce themselves. Emily, can we start with you?
Yeah, my name is Emily Altman, and I'm the CEO of the Couples Workshop, where I provide solutions-focused couples therapy.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks.
Jennifer, can you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. I'm Jennifer Vancil, and my company is Communicating Strengths, which is a strengths-based career coaching private practice here in Fort Collins, but I serve people all across the U.S.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. And Miriam.
Yes, my name is Miriam Altman. I am the president and owner of Natural Selection Products, and we manufacture health and behavioral health products for animals. And we distribute nationally, but we're based out of Fort Collins as well. So.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much. And my name is Jill Brito. I'm the owner or co-owner, I should say. I have a business partner as well and founder of Journey Online Tutoring. And we support teenagers and their families with the academic and organizational challenges of learning, both virtual and in person. So I'm really excited to talk to you all today. And as we were all kind of talking about what we were going to discuss today, it just kind of dawned on me how unique this experience is, because we all come from very different backgrounds, both personally and professionally. Some of us are in service, some of us are in retail, some of us serve kids, some of us serve adults, some of us serve animals and their families, but we all are kind of coming together to bring like the best practices as female entrepreneurs, as women in business. So I really love that this panel can really be helpful to anyone any women in business, right? Whether you're just starting, whether you're kind of midway through, whether you're almost at the end, and whatever field you're in. So I'm really excited that we can bring kind of this dynamic element to this conversation. What I wanted to start out with, and I should remind people, I don't know, a lot of people didn't see, but we actually did this panel last year with this same panel, and it was fantastic. And because it's virtual this year, I'm hoping that even more people can glean from all of your insight and wisdom this year. So we're going to be talking about too about like what have we learned in the last year. But I wanted to start with kind of the motivation behind what drove you to your business. Can you tell us about the decision to start your own business, and what was the driver for you, and was that always your plan? So Emily, could you go ahead and kick us off?
Sure. So for the mental health industry, of course, there's a stigma, and I think everyone is very mindful of the stigma. There's a lot of people sharing more of their stories, sharing more resources, which is phenomenal. And another piece of that for me is growing the education behind mental health and what those different avenues can look like. So for me, I was getting a lot of calls from clients who would say things like, I want solutions. We want to move forward from this problem, a very future-focused mindset. And then previous jobs that I had and the theories that we used were like, okay, tell me more about your childhood and, tell me more about your history. And I think that's important to a degree. And for some people, that's important to have. For other people, it's not. And I want more people to know that the mental health industry can be customizable. It can fit what you want it to fit. So I created a practice for that solution-minded, focused couple that can have that avenue without having to tell their therapist that they don't want to talk about their childhood.
I love that. That's very cool. And I love that you can take this massive industry and be like, I've seen this specific problem and I was able to develop a solution for this specific problem. I love that.
One a big piece too, I think we can break the stigma if we can grow the mindset of what therapy looks like. I think that'll automatically decrease that stigma.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Jennifer, how about you? What was your motivation?
Sure. Well, as a career coach, I had my own career journey, and that was that I was very, very happy in my work, but working in education for 24 years, there's a limit to the money that you can make. And my reality at the time when I started my business was I had been a single parent for 10 years, and I was looking at trying to figure out how to pay for college. And that's the reality. As I looked at that and said, I don't see where the money is going to come from, and this is really important to me. And I wanted to shift my income, but I didn't want to leave my work. And in university type work, I had been with universities for 24 years. The way that you get more money is you do a different job. You supervise people, you become a manager, you become a director. But I am a career coach, and I know what I love doing, which is help people use education, training, skills, and abilities to change their lives, to reach their career goals. So being so clear on my own goals, I knew that I couldn't go be a director and be happy. I wanted to continue to serve people, and that's why I stayed in my career. So the idea of starting a business came from seeing other people that were doing private career coaching, understanding that they were creating a business and realizing that it was the same work. I would be able to do the same work that I love, but I would be able to do it on a business model versus a salary model, which allowed me to change my income. And 2.5 years later, it has worked. I'm really happy that I made the decision, but my motivation was to not leave the work that I loved, but still change my income.
I love that. I love that. And you're doing it.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you. Miriam, how about you? What was your motivation?
Well, admittedly, I never really envisioned myself being a business owner. That wasn't something I kind of went through my life thinking was going to be in the cards for me. But after school, after I went through my master's program, I ended up working at kind of a corporate job, and I was finding it very difficult to kind of manage a lot of my goals outside of work and what I wanted my life to kind of be outside of work. And I just found it very draining, to be perfectly honest. So an opportunity came along to start my own business. I actually, a little bit different than everybody else, mine's a retail-based business. So I kind of came across this opportunity to purchase this retail-based, purchase the products and start my own business. And I did so because it really allowed me the flexibility to determine my own time, and kind of allowed me to build my life the way that I wanted to build it. And at the same time, help other people and help their animals and do things that still brought me joy and interact with new people. So that was my biggest motivation, was really kind of to develop a life that brought me more happiness than my job previously had. So
that's awesome.
Can we ask you too, Jill? I know you're moderating.
Yeah, absolutely. Mine was kind of interesting. I got my MBA from CSU, but then in an entrepreneurship program actually, and got excited about starting business, but ended up in kind of the other people's startups world. And I learned a lot from those experiences, but what I learned about myself is that I can't not put my whole heart and soul into something. And I was realizing I'm pouring my heart and soul into things that, to be blatantly honest, I did not care about. I was working for a couple companies that were great, but I'm like, I just can't just love this. I'm not passionate about it. And so through a series of events, I ended up actually losing my job. One of the companies I worked for went out of business, and did a couple things on the side. And then in February last year, literally right after we did this panel, a good friend of mine who I'd known for about 3 years, and he was a teacher, he said, "Hey, we should start a tutoring company. Do you want to be my business partner?" And I was like, "Okay, let's do this." and it little did we know, right, that COVID was about to strike, and we did not see COVID and then jump on the bandwagon oh, this is going to be a thing. we had thought about this pre-COVID. And
Gosh.
so as we kind of have walked through this, it's been almost a year now since we founded. It was like March 5th and everything shut down about the 15th. It's really been like, I'm able to now pour my heart and soul into something that I love, right? And like, I'm able to like use the education that I got for something that I'm passionate about. And education is my background as well. So I'm able to kind of use both of those worlds together. And it's just, it's so fulfilling. It's so, it's just, it's so, it's just such a wonderful experience. And even the hard pieces, I'm like, I'm learning from this. So like to have like professional and personal growth be sort of put together, it's really great. So thanks for asking. So kind of dovetailing into that, what do you love about being an entrepreneur? What do you love about business ownership? And I guess I'll just open it up. We don't have to go in a circle if we don't need to, but what's the best part for you?
I think the best part for me is, when you kind of create these ideas and see them coming to fruition and all of your hard work paying off. And that, every piece of that was something that you kind of developed on your own, and you kind of see these things carry out and how it affects not just your clients or, for me, it's my customers, but also yourself and what that means for you to see all of your hard work and your drive pay off. Like that's kind of, that's for me one of my most favorite things, I think.
Definitely.
I think for me, it's getting to do exactly the work I want to do. And if I find that I'm not doing it exactly the way I want to do it, being able to change that and having the autonomy to do that. And, I have my certain way. I've been helping people change careers for many, many years. And I get to do it under my philosophy that I've developed. And I'm able to say up front, like, I believe that we need to know what your strengths are, and then we need to help you find work that's meaningful to you, that uses your strengths, and you'll be happier if you use your strengths. So it's just the way of doing business and the way of serving clients. I get to choose. This is the perspective I come from. And so the people that work with me are people who want to work from the perspective that I'm coming from. So I'm not forcing it on anyone, and they're not trying to make it different. I mean, if what I want is what they want, then we have a match, and then we can do great work. So I think there's just so much. It's so gratifying to me to be able to do exactly what I want to do with exactly my ideal client. I think it's just magic that we can figure out from a business standpoint how to get ideal clients to ideal service providers. I think that's incredible. Marketing and all the good things that business does. But I love being able to do the work exactly the way I want to do it.
I totally agree with both of you. I love those two perspectives. And the whole time it was like, yeah, me too. The only thing I would add to that is just the feeling that comes with that work, that you have that perfect match and having that freedom. It's also, I've never been more proud of myself. I've never also had more self-doubt in my life. And to just have both of those experiences and still come into work and own it and still get new clients and still keep pushing. I don't think I ever would have had that type of feeling, that amount of pride in myself in another career.
I have, like, you all said it all. Like, that's exactly how I feel as well. It's just being able to like say like, wow, I did this, and like I can do it my way, and people are really resonating with that, right? So just the pride, like you said, Miriam, and like the work that you've done, and knowing that like you're holding the steering wheel, like I can do whatever I think is best for my business and my clients. So it's very fulfilling. And as far as speaking now to being a female business owner, what would you say are the unique advantages we have as women in business?
I think it's the girl power mentality. You go to networking events or like things like this, and you can network with other people, with men, and those can be great connections. That can be so huge. And there's something special about meeting another woman entrepreneur that it's like, yeah, I got you. Like, it's like you automatically get this more creative side of, okay, how can we come up with a collaboration? How can we help one another? Or even just the fight and the drive that comes with being a woman. There's just this automatic innate connection that I think we can get from one another.
I think in my work as a career coach, I recognize where we are in history and how many voices we have that have told women they have to be a certain way or they can't be a certain way. You know, I think about my grandmother never held a job, maybe when she was 18 for 6 months or something, but like in her adult life, never held a job. My mom only had part-time jobs and amazing, you know, at home with us and told us we could be anything we wanted to do. But to be the first woman in my family to go to college, to get a master's degree, to have a full-time career, I think I didn't necessarily know that was, I think I believe that it was possible, but I'm conscious of the fact that just before us, in generations just before us, the world was different. You know, I know the world has been different in our parents and our grandparents' generation. So I'm kind of choked up thinking about it. I think that those messages that women had a different place, only a different place. I think women have a lot of choices, and I don't know that a lot of women know that. And so I also believe that not a lot of men know that. And folks of all gender backgrounds have been told that there's certain places they have to be in. So I think that stepping into entrepreneurship broke a lot of those boundaries, because I think I believed that I'm just a regular person. I can't own a business. I can't start a business. There's so many things I don't know. I can't do it. And I had to get over those messages myself. And having done that now, as I'm coaching clients, I can say, okay, where did that message come from? Whose voice is that? Who's telling you you can't do this or that, or you have to do this or that? And so I feel like overcoming that barrier is like putting my money where my mouth is. Like now I can ask clients those hard questions because I had to fight through a lot of that myself. And I'm proud of the lineage I've come from. I came from very strong women, and this path in our generation is different for women. And I think it's uncharted waters.
Exciting.
I would agree with both Emily and Jennifer. You know, I think that as women, we do garner a lot of strength from other women. And I also think that we're in a totally different space right now than we have been in the past. And I think that there's a lot of strength that you can, you know, garner from women, you know, previous generations that maybe didn't have the opportunities that we had, but still there's a lot of strength in the path that they felt like they had to take. And I really think that as we have more and more opportunities as women opening up, that we're just going to see so many new opportunities, you know, for women. And I think that there's a lot of, you know, you can sit down and, you know, you can kind of think of stereotypical things that, you know, women are kind of good at that make us good at being entrepreneurs. But I think probably the most important thing that I can think of as far as what, you know, why women are really strong entrepreneurs is our creativity and resourcefulness and our ability to work hard even when things are as hard as they can be. You know, women are so sort of, you know, persevering and just hardworking, and that's what makes them really good business owners. And I think that there's a lot of opportunities for us opening up. I know in the retail space specifically, I've noticed in the last year in particular, I think I mentioned this to Jill, but the retail space is looking more and more for women-owned businesses. And, you know, you can get certified with different associations, and there's large retailers looking to pick women-owned businesses up. And those are new opportunities that we didn't have even a year ago. And there's just a lot of stuff changing, and I think there's a lot of advantages coming our way. So
I'd love to pick up on that. Miriam, I think you're totally right. I think there's a lot of things changing. You know, the statistics are showing that many, many women left the workforce during the pandemic. And a lot of that was, you know, layoffs, different fields that women were in, different jobs that women were in, but also childcare responsibilities still in today's United States world largely fall to women, and many, many, like thousands and thousands of women, the numbers show, have left the workforce in 2020. And so one of the things that I'm really excited about as we're in 2021, because of remote work taking off the way it has, I think flexibility has increased, even though it's taken a toll on many, many women and careers. I do see some new opportunities that have not existed before. And I was talking recently with a woman who lived in a rural area in a small state, and she felt like her job opportunities were very small. And as we talked about what she did and what she could do and the flexibility that she wanted, she was feeling very handicapped. And we realized that her market was worldwide. And she literally started applying to jobs in Israel, applying to jobs in San Francisco. And I think because of being able to work remotely, she was able to access a bigger market. So I do think that the pandemic has been hard on women. Many women have left, but I do think on the other side, there's some opportunities that are open and some flexibility that may continue to exist. I think some remote work possibilities that serve many women very well, and some flexibility that, and some recognition that people, not everyone, but some people do have families, and a lot of people have families, and barking dogs and kids running into meetings and, you know, things like that. Again, this is not just women. Men also have these challenges, but we know statistically more childcare responsibilities fall to women. So I think though that it's been hard. I see the world opening up, and I think more opportunities will be available to women in the future.
Absolutely. And I love what you've all said. Like I love that, like the energy that you get when you're around other women entrepreneurs, like you said, Emily. And the only thing I would add is like the kind of the hustle that women have, I think just inherently. Like for myself personally, like I have 2 young kids, right? So I'm doing the entrepreneur thing. I'm doing the mom don't punch your sister thing, like during meetings. So but also being able to like model that for my kids. I'm like, I've got 2 little girls, right? So if they can grow up seeing like mom is a successful entrepreneur, mom can start her own business, like and not that there's anything wrong with, you know, not being a business owner, right? But to be able to model that for the next generation coming up is really exciting for me, to show my girls firsthand, like you can do anything you want. If you want to own a business, like you've seen it growing up. So that's really exciting. So we talked about this kind of in our emails back and forth. So we met almost exactly a year ago today. And we've kind of touched on COVID and what the things have happened, but COVID and everything else, what has changed for you over the last year? And what have you, I guess, learned, or or some takeaways from this past business year, I guess, since we last met?
I think for me, one thing I learned is just to have a lot of faith. That was something that was actually, I like to have a lot of control over stuff. So I'm constantly watching numbers and, you know, see every day I sit down and I check, you know, what orders I have coming in and what's happening with everything. And when COVID hit, it changed my business for a period of time where I was very, very nervous about my future. And I just kind of had to like step back and have some faith that what I had done was going to carry me through that time, and that things would hopefully get back to normal and kind of release some control that I felt that I no longer had over things. So COVID definitely changed my perspective on how I was running the business. and what I needed to do to feel satisfied in the business, with my business, and kind of where it was going. But faith was probably the biggest thing I learned from COVID, for sure. So.
For me, the big thing that comes to mind is humility. A very large amount of my clients are business owners. And when COVID hit, I lost almost all of my clients because they were so focused on their business. And since then, I've gotten more clients, again, now business owners. And just to hear the stress that comes with their businesses. Some are taking off and they're doing great. And then other clients, even like in the restaurant industry, right? They're going down. It's like, oh, I don't know. I'm stressed. I don't know if I'm going to make payroll. So I hear these stories of growth and concern and this resiliency that comes with it that has just made me so humble. I'm so thankful that my business is open, that I can provide my service virtually. And I know not everyone can do that. And I think a year ago, I'm a very positive person. I like to have that positive mindset. And yet I don't think I lost that. It just made me more thankful that I can have that I can have more positive days than negative days.
I love that you brought up mindset, Emily, and I know you're a mental health professional and that's something you probably work on with people a lot, but I think it's huge. And I think that I've really had to embrace an abundance mindset instead of a scarcity mindset. Not having come from a business background, I came from an education background. I think there was a tendency to have a scarcity mindset, meaning there's not enough for everyone. So when the pandemic hit, 40 million Americans unemployed, and I'm a career coach, that my scarcity mindset says most people will not be able to afford to hire a career coach. I should fight like tooth and nail to have the clients that I have, right? That's a scarcity mindset. An abundance mindset is, wow, there's a lot of people to help. There's no way I can help them all. How can I just try? How can I just try to help? And I think also holding on to like, I will only speak if I'm being paid versus I'm just going to share what I know and hopefully I can help some people. And I believe that clients will come. And so there was very early on in the pandemic where I said, okay, I'm going to go on podcasts. I'm going to, speak if someone asks me to speak to a group. I'm going to share my presentations online. I'm going to do free calls with anyone who wants to do a free call with me because maybe I can help them solve a problem. It was a shift in my mind that said, okay, I don't have to be paid for everything that I do. And I believe that I can help people and business will come. And obviously the demand for career coaching services was very, very high in 2020. And it turned out to be a really excellent business year. But I'm really proud that I didn't have to embrace a scarcity mindset to fight for business, that embracing an abundance mindset actually, I think, served my business better.
I love that so much. And that was very similar to kind of what I had learned over the last year is like, and I think all of us are kind of in a profession that seeks to help others, right? In different ways, right? And my business partner and I had a conversation very early on when we're like, oh, we need to make money and all this stuff. And he's like, you know what, let's step back and say, how many people can we help? Like we're talking about like middle schoolers and high schoolers in the middle of a pandemic who are trying to survive virtual learning. And he's like, and we kind of decided like, eventually, this will all work out. Like you said, Jennifer, eventually clients will come, but how can we help as many people as we can, right? And slowly and steadily, like you said, the clients came, right? People started seeing like, wow, this is really helpful. And that really shifted kind of our whole mindset as we went forward. It's not about how can we make more money? It's like, how can we help more people? Because we've seen how it's helped not just the students we work with, but their whole families. Like the stress goes down, and we're building confidence, we're building skills, and we're like, we were able to help, relieve some of this really horrible stress happening during this time, and we just want to do more of that. So I love that it is a lot about mindset in the business, and not just about the money, for sure. I want to address some of the challenges now that you all face as a female entrepreneur. And it's kind of an open and broad topic, but if you guys had a specific challenge that you've had to overcome that maybe another female entrepreneur could learn from, what would you share with her?
I work with a lot of entrepreneurs as people are changing careers and considering their next step. Entrepreneurship is something that a lot of people consider. And the biggest objection that I hear is, how do I transition from other work into entrepreneurship? I would love to hear that from all of you, actually. I think some people just dive straight in. But as a single parent for a decade, that was not something that I could do. And so I feel like a lot of people and a lot of women are in a situation where you can't just quit. You can't just stop what you're doing and start a business, and you can't instantly make money out of business full time. There's a ramp up time. You have to ramp up your products. You have to ramp up your services. And so thinking about how to transition. And so I started my business as a side gig, just with like one client or two clients or three clients that were referred to me from my students, and realized that I had something that I could build. And I think that's a path that a lot of entrepreneurs go on, and a lot of women entrepreneurs also go on. But I think knowing that that is a legitimate pathway to building a business, is building it as a side gig or as a part-time thing, is a legitimate path, and that you don't have to wholeheartedly stop what you're doing and start doing something else, because I think that's a barrier. It was for me for a very long time.
Great advice.
Yeah, I think, Jennifer, that's an excellent point. I think that's one of the biggest challenges of starting your own business, is figuring, if you're currently in the workforce, is figuring out how to transition into it. And I've been in this doing my business for about 2.5 years now, and I still don't feel like I'm fully transitioned, into this just being my life. And I'm still constantly working on it. And I hope that one day it's just, I wake up and I realize that it's kind of where it's supposed to be. And it's easy to get a little bit impatient with it sometimes. I think you just have to kind of feel what your life is telling you, as far as when to make changes. Mm-hmm. For me, I tend to take on a lot of work, and I won't even realize how much work I'm taking on until I feel like I'm drowning. And then I have to figure out how to get myself out of that situation and move forward from there. And that's kind of been my marker of when I need to keep making changes to transition into the life that I really want, that I really see for myself. And so I'm constantly kind of making changes in how I manage, my work life, also with financial obligations, because we all have those, and also our personal lives. And for a lot of women, that involves children, and how do you manage a family on top of starting a business, on top of working a job? And it can feel like a lot. So you just have to kind of listen to yourself and trust yourself when you feel like you're ready to make shifts, until you get to the point that things are the way you want them to be. So that's been a really big challenge for me. Another challenge I know that I face a lot is just confidence, and feeling like I'm supposed to be doing this, and that, I'm just as good at doing this as anybody else would be, or, these people that go out there and kind of crush it every day. Like I'm very capable of doing that, but I still struggle with the confidence, and sometimes it's little things that you don't even realize when you have conversations with people. There's I find myself kind of sometimes not even just being like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur, I own my own business. Like I don't just outwardly say that to people. And, you know, there's these little challenges that I have to constantly build my ego, you know, try and grow it more and more so that I feel better about what I'm doing. And I think that a lot of women struggle with that because it's still kind of a new concept for women to own their own businesses in a lot of ways. And I think that, you know, going back to an earlier discussion that like Emily brought up, the camaraderie between women becomes really important to help you build your confidence in what you're doing. And I know that even just, you know, Emily is my sister-in-law, but also having her as a fellow business owner has helped me build a lot of confidence and being able to discuss with her and see her positivity about her own business. And those are all really important conversations to have, and, you know, constantly check in with yourself and remind yourself that you're doing good, and that, you know, if you're doing something you love, then you're going to succeed. So.
Ditto, Miriam. I love our talks too. What I would add, yeah, imposter syndrome is real. I don't think that'll ever go away. I always like to tell myself something. Her name's Erin Falk. She owns a marketing firm, actually based out of Kansas City, where I'm from. But she always says, business doesn't get easier, you just get stronger. So these problems will continue to come up. You get bigger in your business, and then more crap happens, and then you get stronger. So then your business grows with you, and then more crap happens at this size. So we just get stronger. And I think we can see that in just a year of our progress. In addition, if I learned anything from having business owners as clients in couples therapy, it's that business is risky and that it takes sacrifice. I don't know if a business decision will ever feel 100% right. I think it depends on your level of risk that you're willing to take. And that varies based on your situation, whether that's finances or children, whatever that is, it depends on your level of risk. And always know that comes at a sacrifice. There's a reason why these couples come in and they're like, my business is doing great and my relationship isn't. What happened to my relationship? So we're constantly balancing this. Yes, your business is important. It takes a lot of time from your relationship, and you still have to have that quality time and that connection piece with your partner. I actually call it the weekend marriage. It's this idea that you're so busy throughout the week that you come home and you're still working. You have such a limited amount of time with your partner. So it's using that time to your advantage, making it the strongest, the best quality time that you can with your partner.
That's really good advice.
I know.
We're all taking notes.
Like, yes, that's really good. So, and I really felt what you were saying too, Miriam, about confidence. Like when we first started the business, I had a lot of like, even though I had gone to business school, like I'd never actually done it from like zero to like actually starting. And so I was very concerned with like making sure our processes were right and our systems were all set up beforehand. And I'm like, no, I want to know the whole like client onboarding process before we even have a client or a potential client. And like, I spent so much time and energy into like making sure things were right. And instead of just saying like, you know, let's have a basic framework and then just build the plane while we're flying it. And I guess that's a challenge I've been able to overcome. And in that mindset piece again, saying like, you know, you've built this basic foundation, this structure, it's working, like you are building this plane while you're flying it. And that's probably not going to change for a while. So like you said, Emily, like you're getting stronger, you're learning more. And so I think a challenge, I don't know if other people have that mindset, like, oh, I have to have this all figured out before I can start a business. Yeah. But I'm like, I wish I had gone from like what's your core and like what are your basic like pillars and foundations, and then like what's your next step, like just go like one step at a time and learn. Like we had a situation where we got a client that it ended up being a really hard situation that didn't work out, but it ended up like we learned a bunch of it, and it was like a group of boys that came together that we were tutoring, and we realized tutoring a group of 7th grade boys is a really hard situation to do. But like we ended up getting like several like individual clients from that, because they still were like, we realized this was kind of just a unique situation, but we'd still like to work with you. They referred us to other clients. So we've really tried to take everything as like, okay, that didn't work the way we thought, but we learned a lot, and look where we are now because of it. So I think that's like the confidence piece, and like just take your next step. Like you don't have to have like the entire blueprint for the next 10 years going on, for sure.
I have to tell you, Jill, I feel for you a little bit. I almost was a little bit blind going into things because I don't have a business background. So sometimes ignorance is bliss, because if I had the education, I think I would have been the same way, mentally trying to get everything so planned, and it doesn't always work that way. So I definitely feel for you. So.
Well, and it's interesting too, because I had like a formal business education, right? You got the MBA behind your name, and what I realized is like I'm so grateful for that education, but I really learned so much by just doing it, right? Like I honestly, and nothing against MBA, like I have one, right? But I don't think if you have the drive and you've got the like the willingness to learn and just go, like I really think anybody can do it, truly. So like I have not written a business plan for my business, and I probably won't unless I'm looking for an investor, right? So like I had almost a whole class on something that I'm not using, and I'm still running a successful business. So it's I think so much of it is just that drive and that hustle, and like I want to learn, and let's do this. Let's do our next step. I love it. Talk to me about marketing. I know we've touched on the subject last year more generally, but Miriam, I love what you said. Like, talk to me about like marketing specifically as a female entrepreneur. And you mentioned some very specific opportunities that I think you touched on already. But how do you differentiate yourself as a woman, and what opportunities can you take advantage of as a female entrepreneur in the marketing and advertising space?
So I think that there's a lot of interesting things happening. I actually worked marketing as my job prior to starting this business, and I felt like I had a fairly in-depth knowledge of marketing going into this, but my perspective on how to market has changed a lot, especially as a business owner. And what you feel like you need to do to market is different when you're doing it for yourself, because it's essential. I mean, it is for any business, but it's really essential when it's yourself. And one thing that, like I mentioned prior, that I think is really important if you're in the retail space, and I don't know the service space as well, but for retail, there's a ton of large vendors and dealers that are looking for women-owned businesses. And over the last year, I've spent a lot of time trying to get my products moved into bigger retailers, and applying to these large corporations. And every single one of them has been looking for women-owned businesses or minority-owned businesses. So I shouldn't just limit that to women, but there's a lot of opportunities for you to market and brand yourself if you can get certified as a women's business a women-owned business, excuse me. And I think that that's something that a lot of women, if you're in retail, should look into to leverage, because it can open up a lot of opportunities for you. The other thing I also learned over the last year is I think that with the changes in kind of with social media is a world of its own. But I do think that we've lost so much connection, especially with COVID, and our, not having an ability to really talk to people face to face like we used to. Marketing yourself, even if you're marketing products, is just as important as marketing the business itself. So it's really important, I find, to put yourself out there, which is really hard for me to do. Like, I'm totally okay with people knowing what the botanical animal flower essences are and Equilay herbals and never knowing my name ever. That'd be fine by me. But it's become really important, I think, for people to have a real connection. People are seeking that just in daily life, and putting yourself out there differentiates you from your competitors. So
That's a great point. And I actually just read recently that only 8% of business owners are women in the United States. And maybe don't quote me on that. I looked at, it was a grant opportunity for minority or women-owned businesses, and that's what they said. So, but unfortunately, I didn't qualify because I found I was only if you live in Delaware. But I think there are a lot of investors and a lot of money opportunities for women-owned businesses. That when you mentioned that a few days ago, Miriam was like, dang, I need to look into that, because I think there's a lot out there that we might not even be aware of that we could take advantage of as female business owners, because there's a lot of incentive for more women to own businesses, for that to grow in our society and our economy. And I think there's a lot of people willing to put their money where their mouth is and say, I'm willing to invest in you as a woman, as a business owner. So I'm really glad you said that, because I'm going to be looking into that myself.
Yeah. I always think it's not about what you do or what you say, but it's about how you make somebody feel. And the more I'm learning that, the more I'm changing my marketing. My target market are men, mostly because therapy is typically targeted for women. And for me, it was like, okay, here's all this cool stuff I do. Let me tell you about these great services. And now, really, with my consultations, it's more like, tell me about yourself. And I find that I come across more authentic. I come across more real and genuine and all those great words that I want to feel. And those clients who connect with that feel that. They're not going to remember what I say about couples therapy or premarital, whatever. They're not going to remember about my credentials. They're going to remember how I made them feel. If I can help them feel more supported, if I can help them feel more validated, that's the piece of marketing that I'm more inspired to start launching, or I already have, but I'm going to start focusing on that more. And I think that's a huge opportunity that women have. We innately have, at least it's a stereotype, right? But women, especially like you moms out there, I think about moms. Who's better at validating things than moms? You get hurt even when you're 30, like you're hurt and you're like, I want to call my mom. Women have these great strengths of targeting these feelings that I think can really help your marketing. So I think if you can really speak to your client, speak to what you think they're feeling, especially in your target, if you can really identify that, I think that can be a huge strength of women entrepreneurs.
I love that you said being authentic and that's a priority. And I really, really appreciate that you said that. I think stepping into authenticity is a huge thing. And I've found that it's actually helped me relate more to my clients. Sometimes my kids, I have teenagers, they come in and they're like, Mom, I need the keys, or where's the shoe, or, whatever it is. Mostly I try never to interrupt a meeting, but if something comes up and I usually tell my clients know that I'm a parent. They know that I'm working from home. We're all working from home these days. Not all, many of us. If my kids come in, I say, hang on just 1 second, let me answer a question for my daughter. And I answer that question and I come back and go, oh, thank you so much. My daughter's car broke down today. And I had to, and that's a true story that happened today, you know, it interrupted a couple of things I was doing. And I came back and said, thank you for understanding. My daughter's car broke down. She's fine. We can continue our meeting, but I appreciate you understanding. And they said, of course, like I'm spending my whole time with you explaining how life is for me. Like we connect as people, right? I'm a person who works, but I'm also a person in a family and a person who has other responsibilities. So I think that being honest about who I am has been a great way to connect with clients. And when people say, I'm trying to balance life and things are crazy, we relate on that level, and it helps us get more work done, and it helps us understand each other better. And I love that you said that word. I think it's just really important.
I love that. Great advice. Love it. Talk to me about organization. So we all wear a lot of hats as business owners, especially if it's like just us or like just us and one other person. So what do you do as a business owner to keep yourself organized and get stuff done with all these hats that you're wearing?
I would love to chime in. That's probably one of my biggest challenges. I'm so relational that people take priority over absolutely everything else, like filing, billing, you know, all the reporting, all those things. What's helped me the most is to have some strong boundaries. And it's a struggle. It's a struggle every day. But I think when I was doing my business as a side gig, I had meetings in the evenings and meetings on the weekends, because that's when I had time outside of my full-time job. Now I'm actually half-time at university in doing university work and half-time doing my business. Of course, business is never half-time. It's like half-time plus. But I do not do evening appointments anymore. And I have a morning start time and I have an evening start time. And that has been really, really important. And I generally don't do weekends. Sometimes I make exceptions, but that's been huge. It's been huge for my family. It's been huge for other people around me. And it's actually been huge for my clients. So I'll tell you a story. I had someone call me who was probably very similar to me in a lot of ways. She was a single parent. She had been through divorce. She was in some career transition. And she was in a job that wasn't working for her, kind of a toxic work environment. I've never been in a toxic work environment, I'm happy to say, but I've certainly worked with a lot of people who have been. But I really related to her, and I kind of identified very quickly she was my ideal client. I was really excited to work with her. And she said, when do you meet with people? And I told her the days that I meet and the times that I meet, and her face fell. And she said, oh, I don't have time. I can't leave work. I really need to meet you in the evening. And I said, let me think about that. And I stepped away from it. I said, I'll call you tomorrow. And I stepped away from it. And I thought, this is my ideal client. Like, I want to make this exception. And I reached out to someone who's gives me good advice. And I said, this person's my ideal client, but she can't meet me when I meet. And he asked me, he said, when is your ideal client available? And I said, oh, my ideal client is available between 8 and 5. He's like, is somebody who's only available at 8 p.m. your ideal client? And I said, no. So I called her back the next day and I said, here's the truth. I would love to work with you. I believe that I can help you. I relate to you and I understand so much of what you're going through. And I have to tell you that a really important part of my meaningful work is having some boundaries on my work. And I cannot do evening appointments. And she teared up and she said, that is really important for me. The thing that's worse about my job situation is I don't have any boundaries. Now I know that you're my coach. I definitely want to work with you. I'll meet with you every lunch hour I can. We're going to work during the day. I'm canceling whatever I need to. We're going to work together. And so me setting that boundary helped her to know that what she needed to do was set a boundary. I will never, ever forget that lesson.
Wow, that's really powerful.
To add on to boundaries, Jennifer, I think they're so important. I also want to add, for me, it's a physical boundary. So For example, like right now I'm sitting at my desk, but I have like my office chair on the other side of my desk. So when I need to do businessy things, I need to like crunch some numbers, I need to do some marketing, that's on that side. That's my business side. The reason for that is it's a very different mindset for me to go from business to therapy. And sometimes I have to make that jump very quickly in order to get everything done. So for me, I have like a cozy chair, right?
Yes.
Before COVID, this is actually the chair I sat in for therapy, and I still use this chair for that. It's the same thing for like my YouTube channel. I really focus on therapy and mental health advice. So I do that here. When I just switch sides, it helps me get into the mindset like no other, just because I have a different perspective. So I think make the most of the space that you have. If you are working from home, like don't take phone calls when you're at your living room or in your kitchen. Be very intentional physically in your house or in your office. Make the most of the space that you have. This is where we have home time, and this is where we have work time. And I think that can automatically create some switches for you to hopefully get through all those things that you do have to get through. Organization is hard. I think I just try to tackle a few main things I need to get done every day. I be realistic about it, but a big piece of that is also being mindful of where I'm at to set myself up for success.
Well, I have to give Emily and Jennifer credit. I am terrible at setting boundaries. So I commend both of you. That's not a strong suit of mine, and I struggle with it constantly because it does create issues within your life. So, within your personal life. So I commend you both for being able to do that. It's something I'm constantly working towards. For me, a lot of times, organization is also one of those things I'm just constantly striving for. I always, as I mentioned earlier, I put too much on my plate, both in my personal life and my work life. So when you have too much on both of those things, you usually get overwhelmed. So one thing I've learned to do is to outsource. And that's hard for me to accept. I like to minimize my overhead, and I always have this mindset that I can just work indefinitely, and that's not the case. So that's something I've had to really learn and accept over time, that I need to outsource more work and to trust that other people can do it, and to work more to give them the resources that they need to be successful at it than to work to actually do the task that I'm trying to outsource. So that's been something that I've really had to learn to do, and find little ways to make my life go a little bit smoother. One thing, it's even just a little thing. Recently, I purchased an Apple Watch. I've never had one in for forever, and it has made my life just so much easier because I don't feel weighed down by my phone. And my phone actually gave me anxiety a lot. Like the second an email comes in and I hear the little chime, I instantly go, I have to take care of this. Like it's just in my head, I have to go deal with this. Whether it's something I have to deal with or not, it gives me instant anxiety. So having the Apple Watch and being able to set my phone aside and dictate what messages I receive when has actually helped me kind of clear up some time frames to do other tasks and to push things aside. And but realistically, it's really a constant struggle for me, and kind of my mindset is, I'm always looking for more. So I'm tend not to be an organized person anyway. So so it's a constant battle, but it's what I try to make sure that I'm doing is that I have happiness throughout my life and throughout my day. Like, do I feel balanced enough between my personal life and what I've got going on with the business? And am I happy enough in both of those that work-life balance is there? So.
I really appreciate you bringing up outsourcing. I think it's a really important thing to say and to talk about when we think about entrepreneurship. Um, the primary reason I actually thought for many, many, many years that I could never own a business is that I'm not good at accounting. Taxes stress me out. I couldn't imagine figuring out a payroll. I had no idea how to do QuickBooks. I didn't want to learn. And I have a friend who is a female entrepreneur who referred me to another female entrepreneur who does accounting for small businesses from home. And absolutely hiring her changed my life because it allowed me to have a business. And that's just a cost of doing business. And so if I hadn't met her, I wouldn't have ever had the courage to do it. She was absolutely the first person I partnered with. It was like, as soon as I had enough money to just cover her costs, that was the first thing I had to put into place. And that's allowed me to grow. And then this year, I outsourced some marketing, and I realized I'm just not, it's just not my thing. I don't know how to create pretty things. I tried to build a website. I didn't know how to do it. She built me a beautiful website with branding and colors and a logo that I'm so proud of, that I feel like represents me so well. And I feel so authentic when I see it. She did that. I do not know how to do that. And then I've recently hired a former student to work part-time as a virtual assistant. And I have a writer that I partner with. And all of these are female entrepreneurs that they're doing their thing and I'm their customer. But that has absolutely allowed me to grow because I want to do the part of the business that I'm good at. And there's a lot of the pieces that are just sucking my energy. And so outsourcing has been huge.
I would second that too. Like it's been a kind of a dance, I guess we would say, is like, what do we do in-house versus what do we outsource, right? Between my business partner and I. And one of the things we do outsource is our marketing. And because we got to the point where like, are you posting on social media? No. Are you? Like, oh, we should probably do that. So, and neither one of us were like, yes, this is my strength. I want to post on social media. And we both realized like, there are people that are hired full-time to be social media managers, to market companies. And like, that's not something that like, we want to focus on getting new clients, on growing our business, on creating curriculum and programs that are going to help people, and not how to put it on social media. So being able to like decide, what's important for you, like you said, Jennifer, like the outsourcing these services has helped me focus on the things that I need to focus on for my business. That's been huge. For me, as far as organization, it kind of came up as a necessity because when we started our business, COVID hit right away, and my kids came home. My kids were no longer in school. So I had a 3 and a 6-year-old, running around the house. I'm trying to get them on, this Zoom meeting and, doing this activity. And also, and my husband's working. And so we ended up having to make like a military-like schedule, like from 3:05 to 4:10 you work. And then, so it made me realize I have a very limited time to work, and I need to be like concentrated, like churning stuff out like no other during that time. So I didn't have time to sit in front of my computer and say like, what do I do today? Like I needed to know when I was sitting down, I knew exactly how I was going to spend that hour and 5 minutes. So it kind of forced me to make an organizational system that allowed me to do that, to pre-plan what I needed to do. And it's been awesome because we've, it sort of grew into another service that we offer at our business. I taught it to my business partner and he's like, oh, you should say that we offer organizational coaching. Okay. So we got some organizational coaching clients that I've been able to teach and help, but it's, I tell them all, I'm like, I'm not teaching you this because it's cute. Like I teach you this because this is how I make my life work. Right. It's lowered my stress levels. And so being able to create a system that works for you that you know, like, okay, this is how I'm going to spend my time. This is when I'm going to spend it. And this is what I hope to accomplish during that time. That's been huge for me, especially with even now I've got a kid in preschool, 2 hours a day, 4 days a week. And then, like I'm constantly going like, oh, pick up this kid, go pick up this. And, so I'm like, all right, these are my 2 hours, go. And but it's been really good. It's been really helpful. All right, we're kind of rounding out our hour. So I wanted to kind of leave with this kind of big question of advice. So now having established business, you've all been in business for over 2 years, I believe, I'm correct. Myself, just about a year. What's one piece of advice you would tell somebody who is starting out or thinking about starting and wanting to grow? And what I thought about this is like, if you could go back to yourself and tell yourself a piece of advice as you were starting your business, what would you tell yourself?
I guess, so for me, I guess my piece of advice would be to really believe, this is going to sound cheesy on the surface, but believe in yourself. And what I mean by that is a business is a very personal thing, because when you're an entrepreneur, it's almost lonely in a sense. Sometimes you feel like you're the only person dealing with these issues, which isn't the case, but it can really feel lonely, and it's hard to talk to your friends or family and have them truly understand what you're dealing with or problems you're dealing with. So when I say believe in yourself, it's more about like staying true to yourself throughout the business. Don't let other influences, like other people's perspectives, influence what you want your business to be, because at the end of the day, it really is your business, and you have to be happy with it. You have to be happy with the direction it's going and how it makes you feel to run that business. And making decisions based on other people's perspectives isn't going to bring you happiness in your business, and you're going to feel it slipping away from you. And that's something that happened to me for a little while. I took advice from people that I truly genuinely still respect them, but their viewpoint didn't fit what I wanted my business to be. And I felt like the business was not becoming what I wanted it to be. So just, have a lot of trust in your own ability to make your decisions that are right for you in your own business.
When I first was like, I'm going to open this practice, right? I told you all my mission. I'm still very passionate about it. And when I opened the business, that was my focus. So I had all this fulfillment. I had all this joy, all this happiness that Miriam's talking about that you need. And then reality hit. And when I first opened, I would tell everybody to open a business. This is the most empowering thing. You can do it. You got this. And I told everybody in my life what it would be like for them to open a business. And some of them were really starting to get on board and really feeling that drive and that energy. Now, I don't think it is for everybody. And I would say it's not for most people. And I say that because that's the journey. That's the journey, and that's what it's like to own a business. I think to have really good boundaries, all this advice is like the ideal. And of course, on our best days, all of us and all of you watching are owning it. You're killing it. And if you're thinking about owning a business, you're like, nah, I got it. It's going to be great. And set yourself up for success by being realistic. I think being in the clouds is great, and have a little grounding piece too. What percent of businesses fail in the first year? And then it's up to 50% by year 10. So most small businesses really struggle. 50% don't make it past 10 years. You think by 10 years you're going to make it. And I just wish I would have been a little more realistic, because it would have gotten me through those harder days. when you're on cloud 9 and all of a sudden you hit rock bottom, it feels like such a heavy fall. If I'm realistic, then that's all right. I can climb back up, no problem. And then when I have those high moments, awesome. And then just having this realistic view of what life is like as a business owner. It is rocky, and I just hope for every entrepreneur out there that you find some kind of middle ground that fits for you. So like Miriam's saying, that you find that happiness piece there, but you also still have this fulfillment. You still have time with family, and you know that there's some days that you have to work hard, or you have to take an evening appointment, or whatever that looks like. Just having that realistic grounding place to have a little more fulfillment and less of a heavier fall.
That's awesome. I am so inspired by you three ladies, and I'm just thinking about all the people that are going to watch later, and just my heart is so full with all the people in this community who are starting businesses, and all the people who want to start businesses, and people who already have. I mean, some of you listening probably have been at this much longer than all of us have, and some of you are just thinking about it. I think what I wish I would have embraced a little bit sooner was just the idea that I didn't have to have all of the pieces figured out in the beginning. And I hear it, I do now coach a lot of entrepreneurs because some of my career coach clients are deciding to start businesses. And the thing that I hear again is, well, I need a logo, and I need a website, and I need all the products, and I need all the services, and I need to run office space, and I need to, all the things. I have to have all of these things in order to be able to start. And I think what I realized was just starting works. Just starting. I literally got my website launched 2 years after starting my business. 2 years. I was running my business through LinkedIn. For some people, it's Facebook or Instagram or referrals, or they put an ad out and they get enough business. I don't know what it is for all of you. For me, I was able to use LinkedIn to get enough that I could survive until I could figure out how to go bigger. And I realized that I couldn't have handled the number of clients I have now early, because I didn't have the systems in place. Now I have a portal that I use. I have online payment systems. I have all these things in place, but I had to build them small. And so I actually think you don't want to create a huge business out of the outset. In most cases, you just need to start small. I mean, it depends what you're building, and I'm sure that varies quite a lot, but start with a minimum viable product. Start with a minimum service, like one service that you can offer really well, or one product that you can sell, and then add another product, and then add another product. I think a lot of us have learned lessons like that. And I certainly did. When I just started and got good at what I was doing, then I could add something else and add something else.
And I so appreciate that too, Jennifer, because that was one of my big, like, if I could go back to Jill a year ago and to give her a piece of advice, like, just start. Like, you don't need the 10-year blueprint. Like, you don't need like all the fancy systems that now that you've clicked on that one Facebook ad, all of them come up, right? Just what I remember our first client that we got, it was in June. And it was a friend of mine I knew, but I was so nervous that I'm like, it's not ready. It's not ready. I made my business partner call and be like, can you call them and figure this out? And it was that whole, like, I don't feel like we're ready, but we were. Like, is it different now than it was a year ago? Yes. Do I think it's better? Yes. But was it still okay? And was it still good? And did we still deliver value? Yes. And then we just kept putting that next step, like one foot in front of the other. So I wish I had just like stepped out a little more. And I think part of it is that you grow in confidence with every step that you take. But I wish I had jumped in head first. And even if I had, broken my nose while doing it, I'm like, oh, we don't do that again. Okay. So I love that advice, and just take the next step, just get started, and you don't have to plan everything out into the indefinite future. Well, ladies, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. This has been such a pleasure to talk with you all again and hear all of your sage advice and wonderful wisdom. And thank you all for listening. And hopefully we'll see you again next year. Okay. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much. Good luck to everyone.
Thank you too.
Bye.